Let's talk fantasy series. Hello, my bookish friends. My name is Nellie. If you've never been here before, welcome. Hi, I love to read. I do consider myself a multi-genre reader, and I've been getting back into my fantasy era lately, which is interesting because I thought the day would never come. But just in thinking about that, I wanted to share with you guys 5 series that I cannot wait for their sequels that are coming out this year, and also 5 series that I'm prioritizing this year that are either fully completed or have quite a few books out this year that I really just want to binge and be caught up or finish with them by the end of this year. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. Okay, starting with books that only have one out in the series. Currently, they came out last year. I believe all 5 of these did, and I'm dying for their sequels to come out. All 5 of these books I think about at least on a weekly basis. We're gonna start out very strong with a book that I think is so severely underhyped. I feel like not enough people have read it, and the sequel is coming out very shortly. And pause for dramatic effect, I just got access to the sequel on NetGalley, and I'm so excited, like I don't even know what to do with myself. But that book is This Monster of Mine by Shalini, and I'm gonna butcher the last name. Abe Sakara is how I always say it. This book is so good if you're wanting something that feels more high fantasy feeling but still has like tension brimming between our 2 main characters throughout. This starts out with our female main character who has had it so tough. She ended up seeing something that she shouldn't have and ended up having an attempt on her life made. She was pushed off of a tower, and it's kind of giving Sally vibes a little bit from Nightmare Before Christmas because she was pretty much patched up back together. She's got scars all over, and ever since then she has just had this desire to know what happened to her and who did this because she wants revenge. An opportunity comes up for her to be able to step into a position that you would normally need a lot of schooling for, which she cannot afford, but it is to be a petiter. That's how I say it. It might be petiter, honestly, but I digress. But essentially it's a person who can magically detect lies, and they are normally paired up in a partnership with a head judge, of which there are a few. She ends up being partnered up with the one person that she doesn't want to be, that is Tetrarch Kadra. He's a very, very bad reputation for being very bloodthirsty almost. And as she gets closer to him, she realizes that his voice is triggering memories of when she was almost unalived. Because of that, she has a lot of suspicions against him, which leads to her helping him during the day and then by night trying to find dirt on him. There's just so much more even going on than just that. A lot of political intrigue in this book that makes this Roman-inspired fantasy just feel very, very intricate, and it keeps you on the edge of your seat. I'm so excited for the next installment in this. We do have a date, and it's called This Blade of Ours. The next book I talk about a lot on my channel, so if you're new here, hi, my name's Nellie, and I love to talk about The Second Death of Locke. I love this story. It's giving very much Lady Night vibes. It is very, very romantic and intimate, even just by the language in this, if that makes sense. Like, this is such a good picture of yearning and a good picture of a very equal partnership between our 2 main characters who have known each other since they were children and end up working side by side in this capacity where our female main character is a well. She has magic inside of her, but she cannot access it, so she ends up being partnered with her childhood best friend, Kier, who is and can access this magic. She trains physically to essentially kind of be his knight to protect him physically while he is using this magic. So beautiful. This world is so lush, and I love this story. And I believe in this world is going to be interconnected standalones within the same world, which I'm so excited about. I'm not going to talk about it too much longer because if you've been here before, I have talked about this probably ad nauseum. It is so good, especially if you like a fantasy with romance that also has a lot of world building. And I feel like our characters are just so well fleshed out. Next is another one that I don't hear a lot of people talking about, and that is The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy by Bridget Knightley. This is very much like British humor. It is I would say a comedic dark romantic fantasy. It is based off of a Hermione fan fiction. I know a lot of authors are trying to separate themselves from the Harry Potter world, but I always like to mention that because this was quite a big Hermione fan fiction before it was trad published. It was originally called Draco Malfoy and the Mortifying Ordeal of Being in Love. But in this world, we essentially have an assassin. We have different orders where people who have magic are divided into, and we have our male main character, Osric Mordaunt, who is in the Order of the assassins, and they're looked down upon by every other order, obviously because of the way they choose to live their lives and their profession. And he ends up having a type of sickness that is eventually going to rid his body of magic. So he ends up coming to basically the person who studies the pathways of magic in bodies. She is part of the healing order. Her name is Ariane, and the two of them pretty much hate each other, but they have a great banter between the two of them and this mutual dislike. He ends up bribing her order and they force her to help him, and so it's a really interesting relationship from there. She ends up kind of just having to experiment because his problem has never really been able to be fixed before, so there's a lot of forced proximity in this, but I just found myself laughing a lot in this. So if you enjoy your fantasy romances with also a lot of humor, then I really think you should check this one out. I also just love these covers. They are so beautiful, and I've already seen the cover for the second book in this, and it is also just as beautiful. But the next book in this series is called The Exquisite Torment of Loving Your Enemy, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. After that is a little known book. I'm just kidding, it's very, very popular, but I am so beyond excited for the next installment in this trilogy. It's by one of my favorite authors, and that is The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. And this is book one in the Stonewater Kingdom. This is very gothic world, and our female main character, Sybil, is one of a few, is it called diviners? Yes, diviners, and they're only known essentially by numbers. People can come to this specific, almost like cathedral or place where they are kept, and if you would like to know your future, a diviner can obviously divine that for you, but they do it by drowning. It's a very like eerie process, thinking about these girls who are chosen to be diviners, who are not even called by their names, and then they're ritualistically drowned over and over and over again, just so people who come can get their fates read. It's very, very interesting, and we end up having diviners going missing, and our female main character obviously wants to figure out what happened to them. She ends up pairing up with like a motley crew of characters to investigate what's happened to them, and I just feel like the juxtaposition between her, who is somebody who's very reverent of the gods, and specifically like a knight that comes with them who does not revere the gods in the way that almost everybody else does. It's very, very interesting to see the clash of beliefs and also how that works in making tension for this relationship to build. I also have a big ick when it comes to like creature companions, and this is pretty much the only book I've ever liked it in. It does it so well, and Rachel Gillig is just so atmospheric in her writing. Book 2 is coming out this year, and it's called The Knave and the Moon, and again, I just can't wait for it. The last book that I am avidly waiting for, book 2, it does not come out until December, and we actually don't have a name for it. Rose and Chains by Julie Soto. This is another one that was a Hermione fan fiction, formerly known as The Auction, and this one is so, so good. If you like a dark, gripping fantasy with romance, I think you should really try this out. It was one of my favorite reads of last year. The world is so eerie and it seems so bleak, but yet for the people that are kind of enslaved or lesser than in this world, the way that specifically the women band together to take care of each other and also to plot a rebellion is incredible. In this world, it basically takes place after a chosen one has essentially died and good has lost, and this is the twin sister of the chosen one who died and was defeated, and all of her people have been enslaved to this other group of people. The magic system in this is really interesting. We have like head magic or mind magic and heart magic, and our two main characters once used to go to school together. So we have Tovin, who is now on the side of the bad people in this world, and then we have obviously Bryony, our female main character, who has kind of been like sold into slavery to his family. What I love about this is getting the flashbacks of both of them in school together and just learning about what happened to her people. It's very, very sad, but it keeps you on the edge of your seat and you just have to keep going. And that ending, I can't. I need the next book. All right, now we're gonna move into series that are either complete or there's at least 3 or 4 books out in the series that I want to binge before the end of this year and either be caught up or have these series completed. The first one I'm going to start with is probably one that I feel like after Sarah J. Maas's announcement, a lot of people are going to be doing the same thing. For me, that's Crescent City. I've read every book in this universe except for the last 2 in this specific series. I've read all of Throne of Glass, I've read all of ACOTAR multiple times, and then I have read Crescent City, but for some reason just never continued. It wasn't because I didn't enjoy it, I just think I prioritized other things at that time, and I kind of had just in my mindset that I knew if a release was announced for the next books in the ACOTAR series, then I was going to jump back into this full force, and I read this when it came out, so I'm going to do a reread, and then I'm going to move on into House of Sky and Breath and House of Flame and Shadow, and I'm really, really excited. This is an urban fantasy series where we also have kind of like fallen angels in here, which is my bread and butter. I love the shadow hunters. I've always been drawn towards angel/demon type books, even as a kid. I was that girl who read all of the Fallen series by Lauren Kay. I read all of the Hush Hush series by Becca Fitzpatrick, and that just like sparked my love for it. So that's kind of a buzzword for me, and it's made me really excited about it. I think I'm going to try to binge this within the next 2 months. So this is my top priority, I would say. But I'm really excited to get into this and just hope I love it as much as I did the first time. After that, I am in the middle of finishing the last book in the Dark Artifices series, and I want to be caught up in the world of the Mortal Instruments before the next book series comes out, which I think is The Last King of Fairy, but I need to catch up and read The Last Hours. I just am finishing the reread, like I said, of The Dark Artifices because I read it a few years ago, and I couldn't even remember if I finished it, but now reading Queen of Air and Darkness, I'm like, I totally read this. I probably could have jumped into this. But regardless, I do want to finish the Last Hours trilogy before The Last King of Fairy comes out. And I also need to read like all of the optional books in the series. I haven't read a single one. So I have some work to do. But this is also an urban fantasy series where we have shadow hunters, which are part angel beings. They basically look like humans, but they're just stronger and faster and can do things that they can't. And they protect the mundanes, which is what they call the humans, from the shadow world. And so I'm super excited about finishing and being caught up on this series because Cassandra Clare, other than Sarah J. Maas, has created my favorite world of characters ever. It's not just the magic, it's really not even the setting, it's just the characters. No one has endeared me to her characters quite like Cassandra Clare has. The next one is going to be kind of on the sci-fi side of fantasy, and that is a trilogy that I've talked about before. I really need to finish it. I already have the next book in the series, but one that I loved, and that is The Blighted Stars by Megan E. O'Keefe. It's called the Devoured Worlds trilogy, and this is so good, especially if you're a girl who wants to try out sci-fi but likes fantasy romance, likes yearning, and wants like an approachable, bingeable read. I would highly recommend this as a first foray into sci-fi. It was my first foray, and it's very, very approachable. I don't know if this is YA or adult, but I would say it kind of reads like new adult. Very, very addictive, but in this world, we have this really interesting concept where if your body gets sick or if you get injured, you can essentially almost like 3D print yourself into another body. And we have a family, or more like an empire, you could say, which is what they've built, who monopolizes this process because they created it. And we have our female main character. She is now part of a rebellion because she's trying to convince everybody, based off of her evidence and what she's seen, that this reprinting process is killing viable planets, which is something that humankind is looking for at this moment. She ends up getting printed into the body of a bodyguard of the son of the man she used to work for. It's a little convoluted, but it's a lot more easy to understand once you're in this story. She's essentially guarding this man that is part of the reason why she was put on ice and not able to be reprinted, which is almost like a prison sentence. And working, the two of them, along with a slew of other people, end up crash landing on this planet and have to fight to survive because there's some eerie, spooky things going on this planet. Obviously, to survive, they have to work together, and it just ends up making them see each other in a different light. And this, just the love story in this, the yearning in this, really is something that surprised me, and it's made me want to continue in the series. They're quite chunky books, but I only have 2 left in this series to be done with it, so this is high priority for me as well. Next is a series that I recently decided to continue in, and the second book in in this series convinced me to keep reading it. I think it was almost better than the first book, and that is a series by Tahereh Mafi called This Woven Kingdom. I have said this before, I'll say it again. Tahereh Mafi really shines with her male main characters, and she really shines in dialogue, specifically in banter, not only between the love interests, but also between friends, between enemies. It's so good and it keeps you turning pages. I believe this is kind of like a twist on Cinderella. I've heard it described as that, but it has like Middle Eastern type notes into it, and it's also magic. In this world we have jinn, which are people with magic, and we have clay, which are humans. The jinn have been overthrown and they've essentially been indentured. They are slaves across the continent, and we have our female main character who is one of those, and she is hiding some things and does not want to be found. One day in an alleyway, a little kid tries to mug her, and she ends up showing mercy and catching the eye of a prince, who then just develops this fascination with her as he's supposed to be marked to try to find her and bring her before the king. I'm doing a horrible job at explaining this, but it is so good, and if you really, really want a new series to binge that has yearning, these books can be read pretty quickly. I don't recommend the audiobook on this because I think that's why I didn't love the first book. The audiobook narrator and we didn't click, okay? But specifically in the second book, I absolutely loved it. Again, just the dialogue and almost like the enemies to lovers thing we have going on. It's so good. Lastly, I am very ambitious with this one because I believe this is going to be a 9-book series and there are 4 books out. I think the 5th book might be coming out this year, I want to say. I could be wrong on that though, but that's The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. I've heard incredible things about this series, and so I've really been wanting to jump into it. I just am wanting to get to it at a good time. I just have to read the back of it because I'm going to butcher this. The year is 2059. For 2 centuries, the Republic of Sion has led an impressive campaign against unnaturalness in Europe. In London, Paige Mahoney holds a high rank in the criminal underworld. The right hand of the ruthless White Binder, Paige is a dream walker, a rare and formidable kind of clairvoyant. Under Sion law, she commits treason simply by breathing. When Paige is arrested for murder, she meets the mysterious founders of Sion, who have designs on her uncommon abilities. If she is able to survive and escape, Paige must use every skill at her disposal and put her trust in someone who ought to be her enemy. It sounds so good. I've heard there's a lot of moving parts in this, but there's also like a romantic subplot that's supposed to be really good. But you're supposed to definitely go into this for the fantasy because I don't know how much romance is in this, but I am very intrigued by this and super excited. But that does bring us to the end of my little list of 5 books that I cannot wait for their sequels to come out this year, and 5 series that I want to binge before the end of the year. If you've read any of these series and want to weigh in on how I should prioritize them, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts about them. And if you enjoyed this video or you liked me, please feel free to stay a while, binge other videos on my channel. I would love to have you here, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!